Let's talk about why large companies struggle with Scrum. True story, I was hired by a very large company that you've heard about. We launched 2 Scrum teams, and sadly at that point in time, working software was not the primary measure of progress. The primary measure of progress was a red, yellow, green status report. So we used to have these status report meetings with senior management, and the world would come to a grinding halt in the days leading up to those meetings. Everybody was in a state of high panic and anxiety because they did not want this status report meeting with executives to go bad. So here's how it would work. So first, we would work as a Scrum team, and we would try and figure out where do things lie. So we had about a 5 or 6 row dashboard, and we would start thinking as a Scrum team, okay, what is the status? So maybe some items are, let's say, red. Couldn't find a red post-it. This is the best I can do. Then we have a review with the managers. And the manager starts giving feedback, and she says, this thing that you have as red, I don't think it's red. I think it's more of an amber, because she's freaking out. What will my boss think if I show up to my boss with some items in red? So she starts dialing down the redness. Have a meeting with the senior manager. Senior manager says, that thing you got as amber, I don't think it's an amber. I think it's a yellowish amber. All right, let's add a new color, new shade to the dashboard. Go to the director. Director says, that I don't really think that yellowish amber is a yellowish amber. I think it's a yellow. It's not a big deal. We deal with it. Go to the senior director. Senior director says, that yellow, I think it's more like a greenish yellow. We got things under control. And finally, by the time you get to the VP, everything is varying shades of green. So this is how empiricism, transparency works when you have large organizations with a prevailing culture trying to walk on the path of agility. Let's talk about why. Why does this happen? One of the interesting things is that in every subsequent meeting, in every level of meeting, the number of attendees kind of follows the Fibonacci scale. Maybe you start with the manager, there are 5-10 people, senior managers, more people get added to the WebEx, and then finally, by the time we got to the VP level meeting, we may have had 200 people on the WebEx. Now here's the game that's really going on. Many people are trying to use that opportunity to score points. The number of slots that are available for promotion in large companies as you go to a higher level keeps reducing. So everybody seems to be playing a game of chess to figure out, now that I'm finally on a WebEx with my VP, how can I take down my colleague whose team is making this presentation so that my VP gets impressed, and the next time promotions come around, my VP remembers this zinger and then promotes me. How can I make my colleague look like an idiot? The Agile principle says our highest priority is to deliver valuable software to our customers. But in that meeting, that's not the intent. One of the Agile principles is periodically we reflect and tune. Teams reflect on how they're doing and they improve. However, in large companies with the prevailing command and control structure, command and control culture, sadly the intent of these Agile principles, values and practices is lost, and what they do instead is that they weaponize these Agile principles, values and practices as tools for the prevailing culture and the old way of doing things. As we used to prepare for these events, the single most important intent in the mind of powerful people was not how might we share the truth, how might we be transparent as a stepping stone for inspection and adaptation. The biggest intent was, how can I make sure that I don't end up in my boss's shit list as a result of this event? If you do or say something that makes your boss look like a fool before his or her boss, that's a shortcut to getting on the shit list, right? So in large companies, the way to stay out of trouble is preserve the status quo. Large companies, they have an agenda. The system has an agenda, as Peter Senge would say in his book, The Fifth Discipline. The system has an agenda, and the system abhors any change. So you are more likely to get fired for coming up with new ideas and trying to rock the boat than if you fail spectacularly, as long as you were not rocking the boat. You were doing things the way we do things around here. That was the intent of a lot of our events make sure you don't rock the boat, make sure you don't get into boss's shit list, and make sure that you don't provide any information that can be weaponized against you or your boss. Large companies struggle with the first principle of agility and Scrum, which is empiricism. Working software is not the primary measure of progress, and the intent of the Agile events is not so much to learn from the past and improve the future, but it's to make sure that the past is not weaponized to harm you or your boss or your team. Hope you found that useful. Until the next video, thank you, keep calm, and Scrum on.